Donnie Frell was widely regarded as a nice kid during his childhood, the kind of kid who could light up a room and make the other kids in his school love him. His father can remember being approached by the mother of a different kid from Donnie's school, and the mother thanked him for raising such an amazing son. In fact, Donnie's father was known by his friends as a Donnie storyteller, always having a memory to share with people. All of this makes it that much more sickening that Donnie's life was abruptly cut short on October 27th of 2007. Donnie was a sophomore business major at Rowan University, and he was hanging out with some friends on the night in question. At one point during the night, Donnie and his friends were walking outside of a convenience store when a group of unknown men approached them. The men asked Donnie if he knew about any homecoming parties around campus, and they proceeded to follow him until Donnie eventually decided to confront them. Unfortunately, two of the men jumped him, punching and kicking him until they finally emptied his pockets and ran away. Donnie was taken to Cooper Hospital, where he died of blunt force trauma to the neck and a laceration to his right vertebral artery. The authorities stated their belief that the murder was motivated by whatever words were exchanged between Donnie and the group of men. An investigation began, but the police didn't have much to go on. One of the few clues they did have was that one of the men had the nickname Smoke, and one of them was wearing a Coogee Heritage jacket. This jacket is believed to be very rare, with the company only having produced 50 jackets in the color scheme that the killer was wearing. The authorities went to each store where the jacket was sold and tried to investigate credit card receipts and other information, but none of their work ever led anywhere. The prosecutor's office eventually collaborated with Clear Channel Outdoor to post messages on billboards about Donnie's case, promising a $100,000 reward for information leading to a conviction. The detectives believed that if the killers lived anywhere in the tri-state area, someone would surely come forward to identify them. Sadly, this never happened. The police have stated that Donnie's case is one of the most complex they've had to deal with. Most murders they investigate aren't random and are also intentional, but Donnie's murder doesn't have a clear-cut motive and seems to have been an accident. For all intents and purposes, it was a completely random homicide. It seems unlikely that his case will ever be solved, but we can always maintain hope that someone's guilty conscience will get the better of them, and they will come forward to identify the killers. Joey LaBute was the type of person who loved staying in on the weekends and watching TV. He was a homebody who didn't go out very often, but on the night of March 4th, 2016, he made an exception. His cousin Stacy had invited him to celebrate at Union Cafe with her and her then-husband Kyle, who had just come out as gay and wanted to mark the occasion with a fun night out. Joey met some co-workers for pizza before making his way to the Union, where Stacy, Kyle, and some others met him at around 9 p.m. By pure chance, the weekend they had decided to celebrate on was also the weekend of the Arnold Sports Festival, which attracts large numbers of athletes to Columbus every year. The Union was packed, and the small group stayed in their corner for most of the night, but Joey decided to mingle. After a couple drinks, he became much more social. Sometime after midnight, Stacy wasn't feeling well and she wanted to leave, but her and Kyle couldn't find Joey anywhere in the crowd. They texted and called him, but received nothing in return. They hoped he had gone to a friend's apartment for the night, and they left, thinking that Joey was probably passed out with a friend. On March 29th, Joey's body was found partially submerged in the Scotia River. An investigation began, but not much information has been publicly released because it is still ongoing. One of the pieces of information that was announced is that Joey was seen leaving the Union on the CCTV footage in the early morning hours of March 5th. According to the authorities, he did not appear to be frightened or confused, but he walked with a purpose out into the cold night without a coat. Data from his phone shows him staying in the same general area for at least 2 hours after his departure from the Union. At 12:19 a.m., Joey texted his Aunt Holly this message. Holly interpreted this drunken message as Joey's way of saying that it felt good to celebrate with everyone. At 1:22 a.m., Joey texted another friend this message. Stacy theorized that he had been trying to type Johnstown, where he worked as a dental hygienist. Holly ended up finding Joey's car abandoned at the Thurber Gate complex, an apartment complex where he used to live. The detectives theorized that Joey may have been using a dating app throughout the night and left the Union to meet up with someone, but this possibility has neither been confirmed or denied. Joey's body was examined and a cause of death could not be clearly determined. The police believed he was already dead when he entered the water, but there were no signs of physical trauma, as well as no traces of unusual chemicals, only alcohol and caffeine. Neither of these were unexpected, seeing as Joey had been drinking on the night of his disappearance. One theory the detectives posited was that someone may have used a drug called GHB on Joey, which is a date rape drug that cannot be easily identified. Apparently, the human body already contains low levels of the drug naturally, and death elevates those levels. Therefore, Joey may have been drugged and the authorities would never have been able to detect the chemical. One final detail I found during my research was that Joey's phone, wallet, and keys were never recovered. The police believe he left the Union to meet up with someone, and that mysterious third party most likely took his possessions, either keeping them as a sadistic trophy or disposing of them to get rid of the evidence. Either way, Joey's case remains unsolved and his killer walks free to this day. Hopefully this will change soon and his family and friends can get the answers and justice they undoubtedly desire. "21-year-old Chris Jenkins was the captain of the lacrosse team at the University of Minnesota. According to his friends and family, Chris was smart, popular, and well known for his sense of humor. On Halloween night in 2002, Chris and his girlfriend attended a double date at the Lone Tree Bar and Grill in Minneapolis. At some point during the night, Chris was kicked out of the bar and the bouncer watched him take a left on Hennepin Avenue. This was the last time anyone ever saw the young man. His phone, wallet, and jacket were all left behind at the bar. Chris's disappearance was potentially connected to several other disappearances, including Joshua Guimond, whose case I covered in a previous video. These victims all disappeared within a 100-mile radius of Minneapolis, and all of them were white males around the same age with similar heights and weights. All of them vanished at night after attending a party or bar, and all of them were last seen in close proximity to water. With all of this information in mind, the theory of a serial killer operating in Minneapolis soon arose. However, shortly after the investigators located Chris's body in the Mississippi River, they ruled out a connection between the three cases. They believed Chris had died as a result of an accident or possibly even suicide. His blood alcohol level was above the legal limit, and they theorized that he may have tripped and fallen into the river. They also suggested that he may have gotten into a fight with his girlfriend and intentionally jumped off a bridge to end his own life. His parents, on the other hand, believed Chris had been murdered. They hired a private investigator to take another look at the case, and this unearthed some chilling details. Chris's body did not have the types of injuries you could expect from someone who fell from a great height. Furthermore, certain unspecified discrepancies suggest that his body was not in the river the whole time he was missing. Chris's parents also stated that the police did not handle the case very well. According to them, the investigators never interviewed anyone at the bar, and they did not treat the scene where the body was found as a crime scene. 2 retired detectives ended up looking into several drowning deaths from the general area in order to compare them to Chris's death, and they found that the position of the body indicated he had not drowned accidentally. In 2005, the police received a tip that a man who was already in prison for unrelated reasons had been partially responsible for Chris's death. They located the man and questioned him. According to the man, he and a friend had approached Chris on a bridge because he was clearly drunk and therefore an easy target for a mugging. Chris had no pockets in his costume, however, so the men became angry that he didn't have any valuables to give them. The man's friend threw Chris off the bridge as a result. The case was reclassified as a homicide, but there were still a few details that didn't add up. For example, if Chris had been thrown from the top of a bridge, how were his slip-on shoes still on his feet? Additionally, how was his shirt still tucked in? How was his costume still intact, and how were his arms crossed? His parents believe someone had abducted Chris and driven him around in their vehicle before killing him and dumping his body in the river. In 2007, a suspect was identified, but there wasn't enough evidence to convict him. A man named Jeremy Lynn Alford was also at the bar on the night in question. Alford had murdered Douglas Miller in 2005, and he was therefore considered a suspect in Chris's case, although he refused to talk about it with the authorities. To this day, the death of Chris Jenkins is still unsolved, and it is unclear whether he was murdered or killed by a freak accident. Hopefully his family and friends will receive the answers they likely want before long, and the case can finally be closed. On July 17th of 2010, 19-year-old Iona Vorak made plans to hang out with some friends at a club in Sopot, Poland. Iona and her friends pre-gamed at one of her friend's grandmother's garden, then went to the Dream Club. At some point in the night, Iona got in an argument with one of her friends and briefly left the club, coming back soon after to rejoin the party. Finally, at 3 a.m., Iona left and decided to walk home. The walk would be a substantial distance, but it wasn't out of the ordinary for her. A CCTV camera caught Iona passing the entrance to a beach near her home, but she mysteriously vanished shortly after. Iona's mother initially did not think much of her daughter's absence. She was supposed to sleep at a friend's place that night anyway. However, when she didn't return the following day, her mother reported her missing. A search effort was launched, including help from Iona's friends and family and even the people who had been at the club the previous night. No trace of the missing girl was ever found. One of the first suspects in Iona's disappearance was a man seen on CCTV footage walking behind Iona. This man was referred to as a guy with a towel because he had a towel with him at the time, but he eventually came forward and told the police that he was on vacation and had nothing to do with the young woman's disappearance. He was cleared of suspicion and set free. One of Iona's friends, a man named Pavel, was arrested for tampering with evidence. Apparently, he entered Iona's personal computer and erased some data, then contacted some of Iona's friends while impersonating her mother. One of the strongest theories about what happened to Iona is that her ex-boyfriend, Patrick, was responsible for her disappearance. They had broken up recently, and there was still a lot of emotion between the two. On the night in question, Iona apparently saw Patrick with another girl at a different party, which dampened her mood. Furthermore, Patrick's testimony had numerous inconsistencies. However, he has never been formally charged with anything and he remains a free man. This case is particularly interesting in Poland, where the media coverage apparently muddied the waters and interfered with the police work, which was already substandard. If any of you speak Polish, I encourage you to do some research of your own on Iona's case, seeing as I only covered the basics. Maybe you'll be the person who recognizes a connection in her case. Stranger things have happened before.